Anyway, hi, my name's William. I'm a writer. Today I'm going to work on my second novel, which should be easier than a first novel, but oddly enough, just as difficult, if not more so. Why is that? Well, first we need some background. I worked on my first novel about 15 years, but I really been working on it in some form or another since I was about 13 or 14 years old, maybe 12. Kind of sad. To almost 20 years to get your first novel finished. But you know what? Got it done, sent it out to publishers and agents, and got back mostly crickets and then also rejections. Which, not a huge surprise, it was a bit of a Tolkien clone. I think we all write Tolkien clones, all of us writing fantasy. We all write Tolkien clones. We can't help it. I was determined not to, and I did. Just about the only thing I managed to do was have a non-male, non-white protagonist. That's as far from Tolkien as I got. But everything else was pretty Tolkien inspired. I just gotta admit it. I don't use dwarves in my fantasy because I feel like dwarves are just short people who live underground. It just seems like 1,000 years ago people said all the short people have to live underground. That's discrimination, man. So yeah, I couldn't tell the difference between a dwarf and just a short, hairy guy who lives underground. So I figured, why have dwarfs then? It's my same issue with elves. I love elves, don't get me wrong. Love them to death. My problem, though, at least when writing elves, is why is my character an elf as opposed to a human? Think about it. If the only difference between humans and elves is that elves live longer and have pointy ears, then there's no reason to have them not be humans or another group or just another tribe or another culture, another ethnicity. What's the difference there? I know plenty of people with pointy ears that are not elves. At least they've told me they're not elves. Anyway, the reason I'm videotaping today and posting is writing is a very lonely, solitary act, and I want to foster a community. This is difficult to do since I live with two roommates who are great, but, not as much community there. I'm going to edit that part. Anyway, my point is, I need friends. Friends on the internet who can watch me write, and I can talk about the writing process while I'm doing it. So, today I'm writing my second novel. It's about a young man who is trying to discover the truth about his parentage. That's the basic storyline. It's a fantasy. Excuse me, there's elves, dragons, wizards, all that good stuff. A little bit about the world, a little bit of world building. You have to understand all the elves and sylphs and fairies and whatnot. They're all part of this one group called the Fae. That includes goblins, that includes Norns, that includes all kinds of creatures, or humanoid and goblinoid creatures. They're all called the Fae, and what makes them unique is that there's not very many of them. There's less than maybe 3,000 total Fae, maybe 5. That's about it. There are thousands and thousands, maybe even millions of humans, rather. Okay? But Fae live a long time. That's the trade-off. Fae live a long time, and they cannot interbreed. Interesting. They cannot interbreed. They can only increase their number by mating with humans. So that's part of where we get, heroes and wizards and stuff from. Now that brings up a lot of problems with the whole idea of, people with the right bloodline being better. But that's part of what I challenge in the book, as you'll see. Because the main character thinks, or believes rather, that his mother is this powerful fae, which may or may not be true. It may or may not matter. So, anyway, that's the book. I'm about 2 paragraphs in. These 2 paragraphs I'm probably going to cut because it's just telling. I have to get this stuff out of the way first, I have to write 2 or 3, 4 or 5 paragraphs before I get actually to the meat of the story. And then I go back and delete those 5 paragraphs. Part of why I'm doing this video today is to talk about my process, because writers love talking about the process. I feel like that's the reason so many of us write in coffee shops. It's not so other people will see us writing and be impressed. We're waiting for someone to come and interrupt us and say, oh my God, what are you working on? Oh, you're so awesome that you're writing. Oh my goodness. Because we all crave attention and we all crave acceptance and love. At least I do. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to post this to YouTube or just Instagram. I'm still figuring out Reels. I like YouTube. I feel like more people are on YouTube, but I've already got stuff on YouTube that doesn't really jive with writing. So I don't know. It doesn't really matter. You just put whatever you want out there, and whatever sticks, sticks. Whatever doesn't. That's a secret to content creation. There is no secret. You just create stuff until enough people like it that people are willing to give you money for it. That's how that works, from what I understand. So, okay, what have I written so far? Book 1, Elfborn, Chapter 1. Callum believed in his mother with all his heart, blah, blah, 2 paragraphs in, I have no idea where I'm going. I kind of know where I'm going. I know the general outline of the story. I don't know, fingers. I don't know what the next few paragraphs are going to be, and that's overwhelming because I want to write a whole book and I don't know how to get from beginning to end. I don't know what my middle looks like. Not really. I've got it outlined somewhere in here. There we go. Okay. So far, the first 2 paragraphs, rough childhood made worse by his claims to Fey ancestry. Cal lives as a thief and street urchin. I got to show that still. Kicked out by his family after his father's death. Oh, whoops, I missed that part. He used to join the Iron Guard. Okay, I don't know how that stuff's gonna happen yet, but I'll figure it out. Okay. Okay. There we go. Got it. All he could do was sit at the bar stool and drink the meager ale his few coppers could afford and remember his father. Balin had died just a few days prior, and it hadn't even taken, no, that's not right. It had it, and his family and Callan's extended family had barely waited for the body to cool before kicking him he'd been disinherited. Balanced stories had made them both. After this drink, Callan was on his own. Now, after this drink, he would be truly alone. He looked around. There were a few snoozing drunks toward the back of the bar. Callan knew they were snoozing because he'd already managed to pick their pockets. It was a skill he'd learned Balin had died just a few months prior. Let's say months. Let's say he's been on the street a couple months, so he kind of knows what he's doing. And it only cost him several beatings. He got beat off with a stick. Because he's picking people's pockets, dude. He's a thief. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Trying to avoid, because he already I'm trying to avoid words like had and was, because these are kind of dead verbs, you know? But for brief, if you can still use them. Okay, perfect example. There were a few snoozing drunks. Instead, write a few drunks snoozed toward the back of the bar. Instead of saying there were a few drunks snoozing by the back of the bar, you say a few drunks snoozed toward the back of the bar. Now we have a noun doing an action as opposed to me telling you a thing that's happening. You see what I'm saying? It reads a lot better. Don't worry, this video won't be too long. I feel like 30 minutes, maybe max. I don't like super long YouTube videos, especially because I don't have time. I don't have time. I barely have time to watch this. It's only 12 minutes right now. I apologize for any cursing. I do have a bad habit of swearing, and I am trying not to do that. I don't think I've used any blue language since I've started this little video, but I may have. I don't know. I'm not going to edit this. I was going to edit it. I'm not going to. I don't feel like it. And this way you get to know me unfiltered. Anyway, getting back to my living situation, I'm in an apartment with two other guys. They're great guys. They can be a little loud in the morning, though. That's the only thing. When they're up. My one roommate, I think, is up. He may have gone back to sleep. My other roommate is still sleeping. He normally sleeps till about afternoon. It's only because he's, at the moment, working on getting a new job. So, you know, it's between jobs at the moment. But, you know, we've all got our struggles. I don't want to dwell on them. This isn't about them. And they're wonderful people. And I hope you get to meet them someday. Anyway, you can see I've got my Darth Vader castle in the background, a little Power Ranger. Got all kinds of stuff around here, doodads, toys. I love this collection. The Marvel retro figures. Retro Legends 3.75 scale, I think. Lovely. I love action figures, toys, comics, superheroes, fantasy, science fiction. That's all my jam. Which leads to me being by myself a lot because a lot of geeks and nerds like me are not very social. Some of us are. Some of us even date. I date, which is nice. But, yeah, I mean, we're a very solitary breed. Sometimes that's intentional. Sometimes that's learned behavior. For me, it was learned. I'm not a solitary person by nature. I like people. I like being around other people who like me. The problem is I felt like growing up, a lot of people didn't like me. So I ended up just avoiding people so I wouldn't be hurt. So that happens. Anyway, where was I? Skilly learned his first weeks on the street. Okay, I'm not going to dwell on a flashback. I might have said those for weeks have been bad. Show it in real time. Okay? Show everything in real time. Don't go too much back when you're in the middle of the thing. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to let that for the rewrite. For the rewrite, maybe I'll start earlier or I'll flash back in the second chapter. Something like that. But for now, this is fine. This is fine. I've got a third paragraph. Excuse me. 3 paragraphs in about 15 minutes. Or 1 paragraph, rather, in about 15 minutes. That's not bad. Not great, but not bad. Considering I was spending days before I wrote a single word. How do we write a book? It's hard. Why? Because books are long and tedious and pondersome. Pondersome. Anyway, They're long. They're big. Big. Any big thing is intimidating. It's overwhelming. The best way to write a book is to just write one sentence. Doesn't have to be a good sentence. Write one sentence, then write another one, and then another, and then stop. Eventually, stop. Whenever you want, really. And you do that enough days in a row, or even non-consecutively, and eventually you'll have a book. If you write every day, your book will be done quicker. If you write every few days or every couple of weeks, it's going to take longer. One of the reasons it took me so long to write my first book is because I was in school. I was 12. I was 21. I was in college or grad school or working a couple different jobs trying to get enough money to move out of my parents' house, different things like that. And when you're doing that, it's hard to focus on your writing, especially when you're tired at the end of the day. You don't want to do anything. Writing's a process, not an event. It can't be done in one day. It can be, but I don't recommend it. NaNoWriMo, I have tried. I've done it a little bit. It's a good exercise. I don't know that I get much gold out of it, but it's still a worthwhile endeavor. I never tried to write the whole book in 1 month, though. I think I'd go insane. I may try that, though, this year, because, I don't have much sanity left to lose. I took medicine today. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, got my Dragon Ball Super shirt on today. I'm not endorsed by Kiriyama, Toei Animation, Fuji TV, or Funimation. Please support the official release. DBC abridged. Love it. Anyway, back to work. This first week's on the street. Bel Zargon, talk about the city a little bit, was an ancient city, one of the first, built atop ruins of the old Dinia. Ruins thousands of years ago when the world was young. There we go. Briefly destroyed during the War of the Snake, Bel Zargon rose from its own from the ashes. Cliche. I'm gonna write it anyway. Rose from the ashes of its own destruction. I know. I'm writing it anyway. It'll edit. Okay. It's of its own destruction into the flower of Kayan lands. Of Zargon extended 50 miles in most directions from the borders of the city, from the walls of the city. But Callan had never been beyond the city gates. He'd never had a reason to roam. Of course, now things were different. He was living on the streets and growing tired of this existence. He wasn't meant for this. Fishing for scraps out of waste bins and scooping rainwater out of ditches and drains. He was tired of spending the first hour every morning coughing. Something that had made him sick the night before. Because that's the thing a lot of people don't know. I mean, okay, you start a lot of rag search stories, you forget when you're homeless, it's real easy to get sick. That's the number one, I would say, issue. Not just venereal disease. I'm talking about just straight up just a cold. You're in the elements. Food poisoning. stuff like that. If you don't have access to fresh food and water, things go downhill very fast. Your mental health deteriorates very fast. He's been a couple months. So I try to do some realism in my writing as much as I can. Just even though I do write fantasy, I don't really like realism as a philosophy that much. I'm not into the whole literature should only be a mirror. I feel like literature should be a mirror and a light. That's a whole other conversation, a whole other video. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, about a page and a half written so far. Page and a quarter, not bad, William. Page and a third, nice. How many words do I have written so far? 476. Let's see if we can get to 1,000 words today. That includes, of course, the title. And the title of the other 2 books that are going to follow this one. Elfblood's going to be a trilogy. The first book is called Elfborn. Book 2 is Elfblade. Book 3, Elfbound. This is all subject to change, of course, because, as we all know, publishers can pick titles, basically. They want to. I think they can anyway. I don't think they usually do, but they can if their title really sucks. And I am trying to be traditionally published. Why? Why not self-publish? Well, I don't like business. All that legal stuff is hard. I don't want to learn it. I don't want to do it. I don't like marketing myself. I'm not good at it. Even this video I know is only going to get like 4 views, maybe on a good day, total, maybe 10 over the next year. I'm not trying to talk down and make viewers feel bad. I know you're not supposed to talk about how few views you get, but you know what? I do. I get few views. That's just the way it is. Algorithm doesn't like me very much. Probably because I'm not a hot chick. I'm joking. Of course. Obviously. Algorithm doesn't know what I look like. And there's plenty of ugly dudes getting YouTube money. That's not why I'm on YouTube. I'm on YouTube to grow a community, have some readers. People want to get interested in my Substack. You can subscribe to that. Subscribe to this channel if you want. I don't know how many of these I'm going to make. I'm not very active on YouTube. Get on my Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm everywhere. Most places. I quit Tumblr. I never been on Tumblr, excuse me. I quit Twitter for my mental health about 4 years ago. 4 pandemic, I think. Before the dark times. And I'm so glad I did. I was on Twitter. No, I was on Twitter in 2020 because I was on there during the riots. Yeah, or the protests, I should say, the BLM protests back in 2020 and 2021, I want to say. So yeah, I was on Twitter back then, but I deleted it, and I'm so glad I did. It was driving me nuts. As writer, I love following writers, but writers can be really super political, which is fine, and it's good and wonderful, and it's important to be political and all that stuff. Democracy, yay! But sometimes I just want to talk about like comic books, chocolate. I know it's privilege, but come on, I can't talk about politics all the time. I will go insane. I get frustrated and angry. I don't want that in my life. I just don't. I'm open to political discussions, not on the internet. I'll do it in person. I'll do it through email. I'm not going to debate you in the comments. Not going to happen. I will engage and be nice because I'm a nice guy. But, we're not debating politics in the comments. It's very rare that I post a hot take or anything because I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to make people upset. I want everyone to like me. That's my biggest flaw. One of my biggest flaws. It's something I need to work on. In addition, I've got what you might call a bit of a weight problem. So I'm working on that too. Anyway, this is almost 25 minutes. I feel like that's long enough. I'm going to trim this down. And that'll be all for today. Thank you.